Thanks, Paul. For 20 years, I covered conflicts around the globe. And in every conflict I covered, it was the young who paid the price of war, the young who were betrayed by the old, betrayed by politicians, and largely forgotten by an empire that used war as it always has been used, which is a source of profit. And this war that we tragically commemorate today, the longest war in American history now, the Afghan War, is one that is clearly about what all wars are about, and that is the enrichment of a small oligarchic elite, war profiteers, Raytheon, Halliburton, General Electric, and the price of their profits is paid for by young men and women, not only our own, but young men and women and, of course, children in places like Afghanistan. All of the lies that have been told to justify this war, that we're liberating women, that we're providing democracy, liberty, Western civilization, is of course a lie. Having been around the weapon systems that are deployed, Hellfire missiles, 90mm tank rounds, any talk of human rights in the midst of a war zone is obscene. There are no human rights when you employ the weapons of modern industrial warfare. It is a ruthless battle between empire and a civilian population that does not want the presence of empire. Occupations such as the occupation of Afghanistan or the occupation of Iraq is about the suppression of all life. As soon as you leave the wire, if you are a soldier, Marine, you understand that the world you enter is hostile. Wars of occupation are such that you very rarely see your enemy. IEDs or ambushes are carried out by forces that evaporate very quickly, and once members of your own unit become victims or casualties, it is a very short leap into demonizing everybody, including children, as we saw in Vietnam, outside the perimeter of your safe area. And those are, as Robert J. Lifton correctly says, atrocity-producing situations. Wars of occupation under empire are always one long atrocity, which is what the war in Vietnam was about, it's what the war in Iraq is about, and it's what the war in Afghanistan is about. And when you compare that atrocity with the myth and the lies that we tell ourselves about what we're doing and who we are, it becomes obscene. And many of the veterans, like Paul and others who are here today, are here not only as witnesses, but because they have suffered an existential crisis. They have returned from the battlefield with an understanding of truth and an understanding that all of the institutions, the church, the schools, the government, Hollywood, disseminate lies. And that existential suffering, I think, that I find in combat veterans who return is as painful as the trauma that they have to cope with. They return if they have self-awareness and the capacity to be honest, alienated, strangers in their own land, unable ever to reintegrate into empire and into the sickness of empire. And that's why I respect and honor them as our prophetic voices, for they have seen the truth and they have the courage to come back and explain the truth to us, even if the wider society does not want to listen. I'm going to read the names now of some young men who died in the war in Vietnam. their lives wasted, taken from them, stolen by war criminals such as Henry Kissinger, Richard Nixon, and other members of the power elite who never have to pay the price for their crimes, while their families live in an unending night of eternal grief. Theodore Thomas, Private Army. Leon William, Private Army. John Frank Leon, Corporal Marine Corps. Leonardo Leonore, Major Air Force. John Lurch, Private Marine Corps. Nicholas Lisando, Corporal Army. Philip Leslie, Corporal Marine Corps. Reuben Less, Specialist Army. Ernest Leisure, Sergeant Army. Witold Lesniak, Private Army. Frank Lovato, Specialist Army. Robert Levine, Specialist Army. Jay Levinson, Corporal Army. John Levius, Specialist Army. Bruce Levy, Private Army. Norman Levy, Commander Navy. Walter Levy, Second Lieutenant Marine Corps. Eric Lewis, Private Marine Corps. Franklin Lewis, Sergeant Army. Gary Lewis, Corporal Army. Michael Lewis, First Lieutenant Army. And Moses Lewis, Corporal Army. Bless them all.